Good afternoon and welcome to the Demolition Daily Livestream. I'm your host, Mark Anthony, which I'm sure you can see in the bottom corner of the screen there. If you were here yesterday, you'll know that yesterday's show was quite serious and quite somber. Well, today I come here not to berate or to castigate, but to celebrate. The show that follows is not a rant, nor is it an interview. It's the story of one man, one very special man actually, on his special day. Now, if you work in the UK demolition sector, chances are you know the man I'm talking about. Even if you haven't met him face to face, it's likely that this man has had some influence or impact upon you and your working life. And his influence extends way beyond UK shores, perhaps even more than he realises. Over the past decade or more, this man has dedicated his life to the demolition industry, to making it more competent, making it better qualified, and ultimately making it safer. Almost every new training course introduced over the past 10 years carries his trademark. He's written, developed, and delivered more training courses than most people have had hot dinners. Although mysteriously his name doesn't appear on all of them, this man has been involved in just about every set of guidance notes the NFDC has produced in the past decade, well, the good ones anyway. He was instrumental in taking the industry's dream of a demolition degree from wish to reality. During a 5-year period, he helped propel the Institute of Demolition Engineers to new heights. And it's no coincidence that the demolition degree course was hosted in a university in his former hometown. And it's even less of a coincidence that his is one of the regions of the IDE that has maintained those highs. The man of the hour has been a respected judge since the World Demolition Awards first came into being. He's one of the industry's only true ambassadors. He was visiting schools to encourage the next generation of demolition men and women long before it became fashionable to do so. And even though he's 3/4 retired, he visits schools to this day, not because it's good for his ego and not in pursuit of some national honour. He does it because he has a passion for demolition that is unparalleled. Now, at this point, there's probably a good many of you that will have guessed the name of the man that I'm talking about. You might have even figured out why I'm talking about him today. But if you haven't, I'll carry on with the clues. A few years back, I got to work with this man to produce a pair of children's books. The first was called My Dad Does Demolition, and the second was called My Dad Drives a Digger. Obviously, given what I do for a living, I came up with the words, and my son made the books look pretty. But the idea for both books started with my co-author. He was the driving force. I just followed in his wake and tried desperately to keep up. Now, at this point, I could talk about his very unique sense of style and fashion, his slight shoe obsession, or the fact that he owns shirts and ties bright enough to scorch your retinas. Last week, many of us scanned the night skies to see if we could spot the Starlink satellites as they passed overhead. While we were all looking up, those satellites were looking down saying, "Holy shit, did you see that shirt?" I could just spend the next few minutes listing his contributions to charity or detailing his professional qualifications and accomplishments, his IDE fellowship, or the fact that he was one of the IDE's best and most popular presidents. Every year, the NFDC presents an award for demolition achievement. Back in the PC era, it used to be called the Man of the Year Award. There have probably been 4 or 5 occasions over the years when today's man of the moment should have won that. I can't remember if he actually did. If he did, it was well deserved. And if he didn't, I would point to David Bowie, who apparently turned down a knighthood on more than one occasion. And let's face it, Bowie was the coolest man ever to walk God's green earth. In truth, though, industry awards only tell part of the story. I'm guessing that because I've never actually won any. So instead of me telling you about the trophies, the gongs, and the medals, let me tell you about the man. I've been very public about the fact that I've had my mental health issues over the years. This got particularly bad about 5 years ago, and with hindsight, I really should have reached out to the man that I'm talking about today. I didn't, and it turns out I didn't need to. The man in question could sense there was something wrong just by the way I was writing, the anger and bitterness contained in a series of needlessly spiteful comments and columns. It's funny, we now live in an age when we all talk about mental health awareness. This guy was aware of my mental health just through reading Demolition News. He was, and he remains, ahead of his time. Unbeknown to me while all this was going on, he was phoning my wife just to make sure I was okay, to see if there was anything he could do to help. And to this day, I'm not entirely sure if he knows that I know that those calls took place. He set me tasks and gave me little paid jobs to do, not to give me cash, but to give me something positive to concentrate on, to set my mind back on the straight and narrow. During that time, this man became my sounding board and my moral compass. Look, I know I can be controversial and outspoken. I know if I see an apple cart, I consider it my duty to upset it. But the only time I've ever really incurred the wrath of the global demolition community is when I've ignored this man's advice, or more stupidly, just didn't seek it in the first place. Now, just so you know, I'm not randomly concentrating on one man today. Today marks his birthday. So what better time to acknowledge and to celebrate his contribution to this industry of ours? Now, funnily enough, I know he's currently in lockdown in a place where there's a very poor internet connection. So the chances are he won't even get to see this show. It's probably just as well. In an industry that's driven by ego, just as much as it's fueled by diesel, the man of the hour would probably find all this a bit embarrassing. Regardless of all that, I hope you'll join me in raising a glass, or in my case, a cup, to a man the demolition industry is lucky to have in its midst, and a man I'm even luckier to call my friend. Many happy returns, Mr. John Woodward. Have a great day, mate, if you are watching, and I'll see you soon, hopefully when all this is blown over. Now, I've got to tell you this before I go. Yesterday, I posted on the Demolition News Instagram feed a photo of a man balanced precariously on the rail of an access platform, attempting to reach an overhead light fixture. In the background, there's a ladder that's also tall enough to reach the light as well. But instead of raising the platform or using the ladder, the man is risking serious injury or perhaps even worse. And the caption reads, "If only he'd found something to lift him up a little higher." I posted it because I thought the caption was funny, and because on a day when we were remembering those that had been killed at work, it served as a timely reminder of just how momentary stupidity can kill. And I've been stunned by the response, and I say that as a person that had an online stalker for 2 years. Rather than taking the photograph at face value, comment after comment sought to excuse this guy's crass stupidity. Maybe the platform batteries were dead, offered one person. Maybe he lost the key, said another guy. Perhaps he didn't have the right training to operate the platform. Well, yeah, no shit. Look, I know this is Instagram, and I know that that Instagram isn't real life. But when the default reaction of people is to find an excuse for dangerous practice, you've really got to wonder, haven't you? Now, just one final point before I sign off. Our guest tomorrow, I've been flagging this up for quite some time now, but our guest tomorrow is Neil Edwards, CEO of the Builders Conference, and the man with his finger pressed firmly on the pulse of the UK construction industry. Together with Neil, we'll be looking back at the level of new contract awards during the month of April, looking back at a surge in new contract awards in March, and attempting to figure out how the industry might look once the lockdown is over and done with. If you're watching live on Facebook at 3 p.m. tomorrow, you'll be able to put questions to Neil in the comments. If you'd like to ask any questions and you're not going to be able to watch live, please file them over. You can see my email address going across the bottom of the screen there. One way or another, we really hope to see you there. That'll do for today. Nice short show, short and sharp. Get it done and get done. Just one final thing. Stay safe, look after yourselves, look after your friends, your family, and your colleagues. We'll be back here again at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We'd love to see you here. Look after yourselves, and once again, happy birthday, John. All the best, mate.